Hey y'all, this is Eli with Alchemy Custom Weaponry. Welcome back to another 45 Friday. If you are watching this on the day we announce it, which is usually 45 Friday. And so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, well, you got a 1911, maybe you're new to 1911s, maybe you aren't new, but you never really talked to anyone about using a 1911. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So, 1911s, what is that? Well, it's a gun designed by John Moses Browning. It is a breech lock short action pistol, and it is typically chambered in 45 ACP. However, in 1929, they began chambering them in Super 38, not 38 Super, it's Super 38. And in 1949, 1950, they came out with 9mm lightweight commanders, and there's been a slew of cartridges ever since and a slew of configurations ever since, but it's just one of the most fantastic pistols, which is why we are absolutely thrilled to be building what I consider to be one of the most fine, or one of the finest 1911s ever made in the history of 1911. So without further ado, let's pull out our 1911. This is our Resto Mod, the classic carry, chambered in 45 ACP. I'm going to go ahead and downsize this magazine, and we're going to make that gun safe so we can talk about it. And the gun is safe now, and I'm going to push back on the hammer and drop it on the chamber. All right, race fans, so this is not going to be me instructing you on the 1911, okay? This is not going to be a class. This is not going to suffice for training. This is just some little things that I think people ought to know about 1911s. And that is, we're going to talk about the gun. So firstly, it's a single action pistol. What's that mean if you don't know? That means the hammer has to be cocked before the gun can be fired, okay? The gun will not fire with the hammer up. As we see here, the gun will only fire with the hammer back there. Now it's interesting to note that when the 1911 was designed by John Moses Browning, and in the patents itself, it talks about that you're going to be carrying the gun with the hammer down on a live chamber. Now, of course, since Jeff Cooper came along and kind of modernized the 1911's manual of arms, we now know the correct way to carry the 1911 is cocked and locked. Now, there's going to be a lot of people, this is going to be a hotly contested thing on this video, is how should you carry a gun? But in modernity, with the safe guns that we're building today, there's no reason you shouldn't carry your gun cocked and locked. Now, if you don't know what cocked and locked means, that's with the hammer to the rear, the thumb safety in the on position. Now, the 1911 has two safeties. Count them with me, 1, 2. If you want to say 3, you might as well say 3, and that is U as the third safety, unless you have an 80s series, and you got 4. But this is not 80s series, this is a 70s series pistol, and that just means it does not have a firing pin safety. This is a pre-1983 is when they first came out with that Colt, so this is a true blue 1911 ignition system. So it's got two safeties. So when you have this gun in the holster, of course, rocking the Milt Sparks 1AT, pretty much the sexiest holster ever. Maybe a little bit too big for concealed carry, but it is super sexy. When you have this gun in the holster, you're going to be okay because the grip safety will be out and you will not be able to have the gun go off. Now, working into this concept, we need to talk about holding the gun. And this is something that, again, is hotly contested because a lot of folks came up in the revolver era, so they're going to do kind of this thumb over grip that you see with a revolver. If by now we've put out the wheel gun video, if not, then we're putting out a wheel gun video, you will notice my hands actually go thumb over thumb, and that is a traditional revolver grip. So you'll see people do that. Now, I will tell you, for the modern combat 1911, in my opinion, the way you should carry the gun, or the way you should, draw and fire the gun, is with your thumb over the safety, depressing the safety, and then riding the safety. And this does a couple things for you. So one, as I'm building my grip, I lose a little weight there. As I'm building my grip, you'll notice that my hand is opening up like this, my thumb is straight up. And the best part about 1911 and learning this kind of thing is it's not 1911 centric. You can build your grip on any semi-automatic handgun like this. In case it's something like a Luger where the safety goes the wrong direction, then you're kind of on your own. But like this, and I'm going to reach in here, okay? I'm going to get a good firm grip. This is another thing we'll talk about in a second, but I'm going to push down and then push up. When I draw my pistol, as I'm clearing into the target, the safety comes off. Some people will say the safety comes off here. I usually will clear it here as I'm building my grip. You know, and that's going to be a hotly contested topic. When it comes to the 1911, almost everything is contested, but you can build your grip and turn the safety off here, or as it clears and points downrange, then the safety can come off as you build your grip. There are definitely different ways to do it. This is how I do it. So from here, you're going to see that my thumb is over the safety, pushing down on the safety. If it goes below, and you're not used to shooting a 45, or even if you are, and you notice that recoil, sometimes you will bump that safety on, which will then, of course, cause the gun to be safe and not go forward. The 1911 has an interesting safety where it will block the slide. You can't open the slide when the safety's on. So it's good to be over the top of the safety. That way you can hold the safety down. It doesn't go back up into the gun and stop the gun while you're shooting. So that's something you're really going to want to work on when you're building your grip from the holster. Okay, you're going to put it in here. I'm going to start, push down, bring up, build my good grip, break the parallel, begin my grip, safety's off, and I'm on the trigger. These guns have really, really light triggers typically, and even amongst heavier 1911 triggers, they will still have better triggers than what you're used to out of a striker fired gun. So when you do begin to prep that trigger, make sure you're pointing it where you want it, because that thing is going to go off. So you're going to prep the trigger to the rear, feel the brake, or feel the wall, excuse me, and then a nice clean brake, making sure you're keeping your sights on target the whole time. Now, this more modern pistol grip does also bring in its own challenges. When the 1911 first came out, there was no bump here on the back of the grip safety. No, now is the memory bump, okay? It was just plain black, or plain flat back here. Excuse me, getting tongue-tied. And so if you use this grip and you didn't have a lot of meat back here, you would fail to engage the grip safety. This is why you saw a lot of folks early on, and people act like they didn't do it, but this happened quite a bit. You saw a lot of folks pin their grip safeties, and you saw the Novak answer, for instance, as a way to answer that grip safety problem. Now, the modern 1911 pretty much will always have this memory bump, unless you're looking at something that's more retro styled, which of course will then not have, it'll have the more GI grip safety tank. So that really helps you when you open your hand, because of course your hand is more open this way than it is this way. Now, if you find to yourself that you don't have a lot of meat in your hand, and you maybe don't have a big hand in general, it might behoove you to use a more revolver style grip or a thumbs down grip. That way you can ensure the grip safety is going to be depressed. This style of grip really sinks your hand into the pistol. If you notice here, it's kind of really deep into the back of that gun, whereas if I do this, you can kind of see how it opens up a little bit. Now, I got enough meat on there. I've had enough milkshakes and burgers that I got enough meat to depress that grip safety. But in case you don't, that is something you can use to make sure you depress the grip safety properly. Moving on to shooting the gun. It is imperative that you use a firm grip. Now, don't death grip the gun. There's going to be a lot of people who say maybe you should, but don't death grip the gun. You want to have a firm grip and lock your wrists, because this gun works just as much off of you as you do off of it. So you want to make sure you have a good firm grip. That way we don't have the possibility of a limp wristing malfunction, which is no fun for anybody. So make sure you're using your 1911 with authority when you do draw this pistol. Now, moving on to a couple other things and I'll let you go. Cleaning the gun, very important, but not as important as people make it out to be. If you keep on spitting on her and you keep going, and what I mean by that is you just keep adding lubrication, a lot of times the gun will keep working. So the gun doesn't have to be spick and spam. You can eat off of it to be able to use it. A lot of folks think it has to be that way. And of course, if you're carrying the gun, there's no reason not to carry a clean gun. But, you know, if you're doing a long day of class, just keep popping lube in that joker. Usually that is a good way to keep the gun running. You don't have to keep it 100% clean. But there is a point when you do need to clean the gun. So don't say, oh, well, Eli said I could shoot the gun and never clean it. That's not what I said. Just said, you know, it doesn't have to be spick and span like a lot of people want you to think. The gun is actually more forgiving than most people in the modern era give it credit for. The 1911 is a shooting experience that most people are shocked when they first get a hold of it. If you're not familiar with shooting a 1911, it will be a life-changing experience for you, especially if it's something good like, for instance, this Alchemy, which I'm just absolutely in love with. You will want one. You will need one. And as an American, you should have one. So that is a few things. If you get a 1911, you want to go ahead and make sure you try out at the range. Thank you so much for joining me here talking about the 1911, my favorite pistol, hopefully your favorite pistol, and if it's not now, hopefully it will be soon. And make sure you carry cocked and locked.